Good morning out there. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Underground Flavas time on My City, My Music. And so thank you for everybody who is tuned in. We have a beautiful, beautiful lineup today. We get to talk to Miss Chalet Versailles from Fordham University, and she's going to talk about what they are doing to get tenants paid about your stories. So I'm super duper excited. I see I have Chris Collins on the show and Miss Tricia Martin. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let me get you up to the big screen. Let's see if I'm skilled enough to do that. I am. You are up on the big screen. So huge shout out to Justin Kick It back there for getting everything lined up to now we can see each other. Can you see me? Let me say that. Hopefully.
I can't.
You cannot see me? Oh.
I cannot.
Can y'all see into the studio at all?
No.
No.
Huh. All right. Well, we'll continue to work on that. But good morning. I definitely see you up on my beautiful screen, Miss Chalet Versailles. Calling from
Thank you.
where is Fordham University?
It's in the Bronx in New York City.
In New York City. Oh. And then we got the beautiful Tricia Martin.
Good morning, everybody.
And we got the handsome Mr. Chris Collins calling in from
Bloomington, Illinois.
Illinois. So we got Illinois, New York, and Missouri in the house on this exciting show today. So thank you, everyone. Before we get into the Trisha, or actually, we'll just let Trisha get into her red hot cleanse before we do any chit chat. Let's blow some things away, boo.
All right, all right, all right. Again, good morning, everybody. I am Tricia Martin, also known as the Red Hawk, spiritual therapist extraordinaire. I say extraordinaire because it's a lot that goes with that. But this morning, we're going to do as we do every Saturday morning. We're going to blow the week's cares away. All right. So y'all know we just put our hands up in the air. We wave them like we just don't care. We got to let the negative energy know it's got to go. All right. We're going to take 3 deep breaths before and 3 deep breaths after the affirmation slash prayer. Some people call it a prayer. It's an affirmation prayer. All right. So we're going to take our first 3 deep breaths. Oh, Mercy, what was that? Okay, so 1, 2, 3. We're gonna breathe in, and blow out. Breathe in and blow out. Again, breathe in and blow out. Oh gosh, I forgot to tell you guys, stand in front of your giant dumpsters and dump. The spirit's like, you forgot to tell them to stand in front of the dumpster. Guys, stand in front of your imaginary dumpsters and dump anything that no longer serves you. I'm talking about from a minute ago on to the beginning of your lifespan. All right. Just dump, dump, dump. And then we'll get started with the affirmation. Tell me when y'all ready. Say ready, ready.
Ready, ready.
Oh, okay. All right. So we start off with universe.
Universe.
I am ready to be made whole again.
I am ready to be made whole again.
Universe,
Universe.
I consciously open myself to release.
I consciously open myself to release.
Universe,
Universe.
today I become reborn.
Today I become reborn.
Today I redirect my thoughts,
Today I redirect my thoughts,
my energy,
my energy,
my everything
my everything
onto a excuse me, onto a progressive,
onto a progressive,
positive path.
positive path.
I release all negative feelings,
I release all negative feelings,
associated with every negative situation
associated with every negative situation
that I have encountered in this life,
that I have encountered in this life,
in that life,
and that life,
and that other life.
and that other life.
I give it all back to you.
I give it all back to you.
I call into existence
I call into existence
peace,
peace,
joy,
joy,
love,
love,
trust,
trust,
respect,
respect,
honor,
honor,
courage,
courage,
confidence,
confidence,
compassion,
compassion,
support,
support,
strength,
strength,
patience,
patience,
protection,
protection,
guidance,
guidance,
understanding,
understanding,
forgiveness,
forgiveness,
emotional,
emotional,
mental,
mental,
spiritual,
spiritual,
and physical healing,
and physical healing,
abundance
abundance
in every area of my life,
in every area of my life,
and a clear thought process.
and a clear thought process.
I thank you in advance
I thank you in advance
for recognizing all of my needs.
for recognizing all of my needs
I'm taking me on this new journey,
and taking me on this new journey,
one which I deserve
one which I deserve
and I am ready for.
and I am ready for.
And so it shall be.
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 We're going to bring this thing into the right now. And so we say, and so it is.
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 We're going to take our final 3 deep breaths this time before we blow them out. We're going to imagine ourselves mighty winds blowing away all of our cares, our concerns, our worries, our disappointments, our fears, our heartaches, our heartbreaks, the stresses, the X's. We're going to blow all of that unwanted, unneeded, unnecessary energy away. On the count of 3, I want you to breathe in and blow out like you've never breathed in nor blown out before. 1, 2, 3, let's go. Breathe in and blow out. Again, breathe in and blow out. One final time, breathe in and blow out.
Thank you for that spiritual cleanse of the morning. I know I definitely needed that. Please tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me all over the internet, but more specifically, if you want to reach out to me, you do that by typing in finallytheredhawk@gmail.com. That's finallytheredhawk@gmail.com.
And that will be finallytheredhawk@gmail.com. Thank you for the spiritual cleanse. Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Versailles. Miss Versailles from New York, Fordham University.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me.
Thank you for being a guest on the show. And we have Mr. Chris Collins over there. I'm going to let him give a little introduction, and then I'm going to let you have the floor, Miss Versailles. Mr. Collins. Okay, Mr. Collins might not be ready. All right. Miss Versailles, you can have the floor.
Well, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to, it's just a real pleasure to be on this morning and to have this platform. I just wanted to share a little bit about some work that I'm currently doing around tenants. And we are interested in hearing tenant stories, whether that's about um, being behind on your rent, facing eviction, or if you have already been evicted, whether legally or illegally. Anyone you know, the only criteria is that we're looking for women and women of color to participate in our study. And the reason for that is because we know that even before the pandemic, uh, Black women, particularly Black single mothers, were the frequently most evicted group compared to all other groups. You know, this is Black women, not even women of color, but Black women specifically, and Black women with children. And given the idea that housing is so necessary for stability, we really wanted to talk with women and hear more about their stories because we don't think that uh, the full story has been told. And I'm a researcher and a psychologist, so I also believe that being unstably housed has an impact on your psychological well being. And so our only goal really is to amplify the voices of women who find themselves in these situations of precarity, whether they've had to live with relatives or doubling up with friends or family, have been in the shelter system, any interaction with unstable housing. We really want to understand it better from a research perspective, but we also want to amplify uh, the voices of people who are experiencing this type of housing insecurity. So that's what the study is about, and we've been recruiting since last year, since 2020, and we have close to 100 interviews, but we feel like we can never have enough, so we're still recruiting women. We don't have a lot of representation from Middle America or the southern states, so we would love it if if any of you are interested to contact us. We compensate each and every participant for their stories. The conversation um, involves just sort of answering a couple of questions. There's about 7 questions, and my research assistant, the program coordinator for the study, is Charity, who is wonderful, and she conducts the interviews. And we afterwards you can either consent to having your interview, not your interview, but the transcript of your interview available, so that people in the public can hear more about your study, or you don't have to. Everything is confidential, and as a researcher, I'm required to maintain confidentiality, and so I think that's important to say because I know that there are landlords out there who are doing retaliatory evictions. So even if you tell us your story, it's just, the only people that will have access to that data are myself and my program coordinator, Charity, unless you decide otherwise. But we will disseminate all the data in an anonymous fashion. We'll have people's words and quotes. We're trying to decide what's the best way to do that, so that people can understand the impact that this is having on women. Yeah, and then after your participation, we'll send you an electronic gift card, no strings attached. You don't have to provide any identifying information. You just have to sign, put your name in a Google form, and that's all. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that's pretty much the summary of the study.
I definitely have some questions, but I want to see if Chris or Tricia have anything they want to ask first before I get into my questions.
No, you know me. I'm just here to listen after I do my due. I'm here to listen and learn.
I'm in the learning mode. Go ahead, girl. Speak that question.
All right, that's what's up. All right, so I so appreciate you taking your time, first and foremost, to be a part of this. And I would like to invite you back at a scheduled time to actually have a forum to where I can have my complainants uh, hear and I can advise them that this is going on so they can actually speak for themselves. Um, what made you, did you have a personal experience or did you know someone who went through it? Was it data? What was it that made you want to do this type of research?
That's a good question. Well, I if you want to know more about my research, I encourage anybody. I can my projects are outlined on VERSEY lab as in boy.com Versey lab, and I do a lot of work around Black women. I mean, I'm a self-identified Black woman. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I just really am interested in the Black woman's experience at all levels. And sometimes, I'm a researcher affiliated with a university. And sometimes I think some of the stories that get written about in research are they they only focus on a certain demographic, right? They only focus on women who are easy to access, like maybe college samples or college educated women. And I started this work because I'm interested in gentrification and I've researched a lot about gentrification. And that was actually the purpose of the data collection in 2020. We were trying to collect data from women who were involved in organizing against gentrification. And then COVID happened. And so then we switched gears a little bit because it became evident to me, particularly as a New Yorker. I mean, my own experience is, I'm a homeowner currently, but before I was a homeowner, I was a renter for a long time. And I understand how difficult housing can be, especially when you're in a city where housing can be scarce, especially affordable housing. And it was something that was a challenge for me, as somebody who, here I am, I'm working, I have a partner. And so I'm thinking this must be really challenging for people who have fewer resources. And so as COVID started happening and anecdotally, I was hearing these protections that were coming into place, but I was also hearing the other side that, whoa, even though there's this eviction moratorium, it's not being enforced regularly, that landlords are still finding other reasons to evict tenants. And I believe it because I'm in a city where there are a lot of dirty landlords, and I'm sure that's the case everywhere. And so I just thought it was unfair and unbalanced because I wasn't really hearing the other side. I would be sitting in calls and people would say, well, there's not really a lot of data to support that people are still getting evicted. Well, it's hard to track evictions, and it's even harder to track people who get evicted unlawfully or illegally. And the only way we have to track evictions are eviction filings. And there's a whole bunch of steps, to my understanding, that have to be fulfilled before someone files an eviction and they actually get evicted. So I guess I just have a passion for it. I mean, I have a passion for housing, how people live, and how that interfaces with our communities. I'm really passionate about Black communities, how Black people live their everyday lives, and women's role in that. And so I think like these are some of the stories that deserve to be told.
I am just enamored that you have taken the time and I can hear your passion, I can hear your depth through your words. And as a woman who has experienced being illegally evicted, and I love the fact that you made the distinctions that most people do not. There is a difference between being illegally evicted and evicted. What are some of the factors that you found in your research that consisted accordingly to an illegal eviction?
Well, those are some of the things that we are really trying to find out. So here, we just started talking to NYCHA residents. So that's our housing authority of public housing. And There are people that we have just been starting to collect interviews from, detailing ways in which, for example, there's enhanced security in their buildings. And I'm sure this is the case for non-NYCHA residents as well, just regular tenant buildings. But the story, the central meat of the story is that landlords are trying to get more sophisticated and more savvy in terms of how they track residents, all under the guise of security. So, for example, if you're on the premises illegally, or say you have a guest that maybe, I don't know, is violating some rule of the building, that could be some sort of justification from the landlord's perspective to file an eviction. What we're finding is that landlords are finding very creative ways to evict people that have nothing to do with non-payment of rent. And that is in stark contrast to what the moratorium is supposed to be in place for. It's supposed to prevent any evictions. It doesn't matter if it's for non-payment of rent or any other reason. But, you know, the idea that landlords are circumventing that and saying, oh, this person violated some other rule, I think is a way in which they are getting around that. And that's what we're hearing anecdotally. And I also think that raising the rent is also another way. This one woman actually this morning responded saying that last summer, right when things were, I think the protections were first put in place, her landlord raised the rent, and in an effort to try to get her out and other tenants out. And actually, we see that. Actually, there's data to show that there was a slew of evictions right around the 1st of September of last year. So remember, the moratorium, the CDC moratorium on eviction was instituted in September of last year. But people were trying, landlords, corporate landlords, were trying to evict, were filing evictions before people really even knew and understood all the provisions that were included. So while you see the moratorium happening in September, you see eviction filings skyrocketing in the same month. So it's these types of things that I think are harmful. And I think that what's frustrating is that it's confusing. It's confusing for me, you know, and I'm sort of trying to follow this every day just for my job. And I can only imagine, you know, trying to get something like emergency rental assistance or things that involve a lot of bureaucracy and red tape. You know, that's usually the case with trying to apply for these types of things. It shouldn't be that hard to get assistance. So I think those are the major things. It's like, you know, educating people about their rights. It's about making policy where it's easier to access assistance. And it's about enforcement. Who's enforcing landlords who are actually trying to evict tenants illegally? Because right now I'm not seeing where there's any sort of enforcement or cracking down on landlords who are doing these types of things.
To hear your voice, I'm just sitting here like you are my echo right now. I have this grin on my face that is like unimaginable, because that is what I have been squawking. And I do feel like squawk is an appropriate term all this time. That so many people are in this illusion that an eviction moratorium means that no evictions are happening. That is not true. They are happening. I just was on the phone, or the lady being evicted was on the phone, and I recorded the whole thing. I haven't released it publicly, but I recorded this whole farce of, on the paperwork, they gave her an actual code. They gave her the number. Like, there's no way that they didn't give her the wrong information. She would have never been able to get on. And I'm sitting there looking at the paper that she's reading from. So it was the wrong information. She was in the wrong court. She got sent to the proper court. By that time, he's reading, you know, going through and making dispositions of trials, settings, etc. So she's missed roll call completely, which By the time that she spoke up and said, hey, I was on, the different court, a default judgment pretty much had already been entered because she didn't answer.
Yes.
So one of the things I want to take out and just give you maybe a perspective of how to organize some of this is asking people, for one, if they've ever been through a default judgment. And with the default judgment, it goes from the standpoint, let's say the property was uninhabitable, for example.
Okay.
And the tenants moved out. They complained, the property owner wasn't fixed, and they moved. Okay. Well, in Missouri, they have this horrible thing called default judgments. So when they send the petition, they're going to send it to the house that you've moved out of. They're not going to follow you because they want the default. So one of the things is how tenants get caught up if they move out of a bad situation is these default judgments of having a petition sent back to the original address. And so all they have to do is post it in a public place, which here is written as our post office, which is another archaic process. So with that being said, it posts for 30 days. They don't respond. They take it back to court. Boom, default judgment. Now, it's very possible that that house that they moved out of had complaints from other tenants. So that's one thing they can do is go back to the building inspection divisions and pull complaints from them to see if there was anything previous in the file. So some people were under evictions through this default process that killed people's credit reports. Yes, and that we just had Perch Credit on. Huge shout out to Perch for taking their time. They're a startup company that Jay-Z just invested millions of dollars in. And their mission is to improve credit scores in lower income minority communities. The second thing I would definitely suggest is the notice to vacate order. Here in Missouri, the legislators who are members of the Real Estate Association, so that may answer your question of why we can't get things done. Every government, whether it's city, state, federal, needs to be asked the question, are you a member of a real estate association or do you have property? That's the same thing we just went through with our last president, how he was so invested into properties. And that's really the problem. Most of the people that make our laws or in power are actually people who owns the properties. So there's always going to be that conflict of interest and nothing will ever get done because then they will have to do something towards themselves. So the notices here in Missouri by legislators have dwindled them down to 10 days. Now, most people believe it's 30 days if you don't have a contract and it's 60 days if you do. But once again, if you're in the legal world, you understand through the legislation, because the legislation affects court process and hearings. They make the rules and the guidelines of what they can and cannot do. So they made it to where they dwindled down and it's now 10 days. 10 days. You and I both know you cannot find a house right in no 10 days. And the eviction proceedings begin. So our legislators in Missouri have allowed the eviction notice to be dwindled down all the way to 10 days. So that's another thing a group can go through and see what legislative laws have been put in place for tenants. And they will be able to trace back who they were, what real estate companies they were affiliated with, what organizations they were affiliated with, just by backtracking. Another way of illegal evictions, so if the notice was illegal, so Missouri is already horrible just giving a 10-day. What I have here in front of me is many landlords would give a 3-day notice, a 5-day notice, a 4-day notice, and I have them. Mine was an 18-hour notice, and I'm a tenants' rights advocate. So you're talking to a woman that I believe has the highest unlawful detainer judgment in the state of Missouri because they made sure that I would lose in court. And so the next step the legislators did was they created a law called House Bill 1410. And in House Bill 1410, they took away the right of a trial de novo. So a trial de novo means new trial. So that's another thing. You might want to find out in every state, if possible, if the courts have removed something called a trial de novo or something similar in nature. And what a trial de novo means is new trial, and it means it only costs $45, maybe $70 to file it. And you get a new trial of what you just went through. So it allows the tenant, per se, to go back and let's say the landlord said he fixed the plumbing or he fixed something. Well, if they never fixed it in this trial de novo, now they have the power to bring people in, the plumbers, the electricians, and verify that it never got fixed and basically blow the landlord's testimony out the water. So if you remove that right, which our Missouri legislators did in 2014 through House Bill 1410, then tenants don't have a viable, reasonable way to prove that the landlord lied. So because they removed the trial de novo, the next step for tenants in Missouri is to go to the appellate court. The appellate court, to get a decent attorney, and I know because I've hired several of them, you pay $5,000, you're going to get a Cracker Jack. So to get a decent appellate attorney is going to cost you $10,000 starting out the gate, and then you're going to have to refill that retainer before trial, because that's going to be eaten up for them filing all the petitions and talking to you on the phone and the emails, etc. So that's one thing to see if they've changed the way that landlords could actually, or tenants can actually fight landlords in court. So House Bill 1410 in the state of Missouri is absolutely illegal because it literally took a right away from every tenant in the state of Missouri. And no one has opposed it. So the people that you would think that would oppose House Bill 1410, they're nowhere in sight. So I will let you garner your own thoughts of who will be the ones that will go in opposition of that. I will let that just be you. I will keep my comments to myself. However, that gives you an opportunity of understanding. If a legislative law can come into effect like that, and the people that you believe are supposed to stand up and stop it, and nothing is done, well, that's why these things continue on, because the people who are supposed to fight against that do nothing. Another thing that is also very fluent here about illegal evictions. In the state of Missouri, well, particularly, let me say St. Louis City and County, because this is not prevalent all over the state. In St. Louis City and County, they have something called an occupancy permit. And what I found is many landlords do not get them. So an occupancy permit is the same level of understanding of like a driver's license. You either are legally permitted to drive or you're not. And so if they fail to get the occupancy permit, then they fail to legally drive tenants into the property to collect rent. But if we skip the first step and go into, did you pay the rent? That nauseating question that I always have to hear, then it's out of order, because the first step, was the property in a position to receive rent, is completely ignored. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the best ways that they get around the habitability portion, is simply ignore it and go straight to the rent. Most tenants don't know how to defend themselves to back it up to the point to keep asking the question about the premises. They simply follow suit, particularly if the judge is trained, and many of them are. If they have a long docket, they're trained to how to get the tenants to answer certain questions. Did you pay at a certain time? Did you this? Did you that? And if people say no, of course, what happens? 1 second, we have a beautiful call coming in from Miss Angela Franklin. Hello, Miss Franklin. Let me see if I can get you plugged in somehow, some way. Hello, Miss Franklin.
Hi, good morning, Raina. Please forgive me.
Girl, you are fine. Girl, you are fine.
I'm sorry. It slipped my mind.
Girl, you are fine.
Oh.
So today we have a guest on named Miss Chalet Versailles from Fordham University. And so we're in the middle of a conversation, but I'll introduce you in a hot second, okay?
Okay, can you speak up a little?
I'm probably about as loud. Is that better?
That's good.
All right.
I can't turn mine up any higher.
That's fine. So back to Miss Versailles. I'm sorry, I just lost my last train of thought.
If the judge is trained, they will ask the tenants a series of questions to get the tenants to answer in a certain way, without considering the habitability or the occupancy permit in the first place.
I love you and thank you. Yes. So, yes, because I actually go to court with all my complainants, and some of them I actually draft their defenses because if legal aid or the other low income organizations deny them, which is also put a point in the star right there, that's a common factor as well. If they're simply denied, then they don't have any representation and they can't afford any. So let that be a little star there too. Denied representation. Ask people how many of them applied for legal assistance and they merely got denied. That would, help you understand why so many evictions take place as well.
Why would someone get denied representation?
So that case, I will refer to 3925 Greer, where it was a boarding house. It went national. You won't read my name because the news and the people involved definitely made sure I was omitted. But I'm literally the one who literally took the tenants down to the legal organization, literally took the pictures that went on the news, literally collected all the information from the tenants, literally, and started that whole case. But you won't read about me, all right? All right, so in that case, that's the one that I would utilize to articulate how it was a boarding house. There was 8 families, and then I would show you, because I've already collected them, some of the other leases and receipts of other tenants who live there. But then when you read the article, you're only going to read about 2 families. That's it. But it was 8 families living there. So a lot of times now when you go and see something on the news, for example, of people getting help, look and see if it was an apartment complex or something with a vast number of tenants. And then read the article and see how many names are mentioned. Because, see, that's the other trick, just like the eviction moratorium, the illusion that evictions are halted. So that illusion when it's an apartment complex that all these people got help. Read the article. You only going to read a name or 2. The rest of the people didn't get help, but your belief is through this illusion that all of them got help. Reread it. It's going to say about a family or 2. And that means the rest of those people didn't get help. So I would use 3925 Greer. I would also utilize Ferguson. Many people did not get assistance. There's plenty of articles about that. So back to the judge. So the tenants get in front of the judge, and so he'll start, because obviously the tenant's like, hey, he never came and fixed this. He never came and fixed that. And the judge is just simply so cool and mild-mannerly say, did you sign this lease? Did you pay the rent from August through November? And your rent is how much a month? And so you admit here today that you did not pay from August through March? Okay, so did you put the money in escrow? No. Okay, well, I can't do nothing but find in the plaintiff's favor. Does that make sense? Because they're not guided to go back. And they will feel, they're caught in this 22. A judge is literally asking them these questions line for line for line. There's no wiggle room for them because they don't want to look. And some of them will start talking again, but that ain't doing nothing but iron the judge even more because he has a full docket of tenants to kick out that day. The 9:30 docket is full and the 1:30 docket is full. Good morning, Mr. Sean Mattingly.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well. So I'm going to take a pause right here. Ms. Franklin, introduce yourself.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. I am Angela Franklin, and it's a pleasure to be here online or live with you guys.
And we are happy to have you. And give us a little bit of background of what you've done regarding housing.
I was a former clerk to 12 case managers for the St. Louis Housing Authority. And so I have a little experience with the process and the bylaws. But I have great news to bring on to your listeners today.
Bring it, baby.
Okay. Governor Parsons, February the 11th of 2021, signed the HB 16 law into effect, which gave Missouri 324 million in rental assistance and utility assistance. It is funded by the Department of Treasury and the Missouri Housing Commissioner. It's called State Assistance for Housing Relief. The acronym for it is SAFARI, SAFHR, and it is listed under mohousingresources.com. They will pay 6 months in the rear, not to exceed 12 months in a calendar year for rental assistance. If you're current, they will pay 3 months forward, including utilities. Again, I have a telephone number. This is for Greene County, Jackson County, Jefferson County, St. Louis County, Kansas City, and St. Louis City. I have and these applications are open. They are online, and for people who don't have internet resources, I have a telephone number that can be utilized. But before I move on to the phone number, there's also another program I came across that is called the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, known as ART, ERAT. And that program works with the SAFARI, the State Assistance, let me get the acronyms right, State Assistance for Housing Relief. Let me get a telephone number for your audience. I just had it. I'm sorry. My page went down. Just a second. It's loading. Okay. That number would be 833-541-1599. And again, you can go to www.mohousingresources.com/SAFHR.
So that is money that is owed, and that's future rent money that is now available.
Yes.
And that
It
is
will pay balance the rears, or if you can't, it would do 3 months forward, including utilities assistance for both.
Thank you.
Can you repeat that phone number one more time? Thank you so much. Dropping gems.
Certainly. It's 833-541-1599. And it's called the acronym is SAFHR program, and that stands for State Assistance for Housing Relief.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin. That is some awesome information. And yes, I'm glad you came on to share it, because I was going to get to that in the second part of what is available for people. Mr. Sean Mattingly, introduce yourself.
That's amazing news.
It is wonderful news, that yes, because future rent needs to be taken care of as far as back rent. That was something I've been screaming.
Oh,
that no one
Let me
has.
put a,
Hold on, Miss Franklin. We got Mr. Mattingly now. I'll get you right back, okay?
okay,
what do you
I
want to
just
know?
want to say landlords can do it too.
Thank you, Miss Franklin. Sorry, Mr. Mattingly.
Hmm.
Continue. How you doing down there? You calling out of Florida?
Yeah, I'm calling Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm doing good.
And tell the audience about Tees for Hope.
He's for Hope. Okay. He's for Hope is helping feed the homeless and the low-income families, veterans. We have a T-shirt website with different designs. You purchase a T-shirt for $25, and then the money goes towards, after printing cost, of course, and shipping. The money goes to buying gift cards like for McDonald's, Burger King, Publix. I don't know if you know Publix is a grocery store. Grocery store gift cards give to people that are in need.
And thank you for joining in. Thank you so, so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chris Collins,
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
I am well. You weren't in for the first round, so stick your information in this round. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
The founder of Housing Our People Everywhere. Our acronym is HOPE, and that's what we want to do is give everyone hope, give our children the solution to end the homeless problem, but create jobs for people that does not have them. So it's not the homeless have jobs; it's everyone have jobs. So we're launching here here in Bloomington. We're buying 2.5 acres on Wednesday, and I'm going to empty the shelters in the largest county in Illinois for the first time in 100 years. And these people are going to be able to move forward in life, and anyone else that's needing it is going to continue, but it's going to be built by the youth in this community. We're going to show that doing something positive in the afternoon will change everyone's life for the day and move forward for the next. And we can always look forward to tomorrow because we're going to stop looking at yesterday. And I thank you. I don't have to go into it a whole lot of what I do. I've been on here for a while, and I know we got new listeners and stuff, but I know you guys are dropping gems in here, and I just want to continue to see what else you might be able to come up with. Thank you.
This is Sean. I just want you to know that I put a banner of your organization on my website. Okay, Teach for
Awesome.
Hope website.
Hey, I want to let you know I have a veterans ranch now in Florida, in Winter Park.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody needs some stuff, and that's for the family and all. So they, look that up. I've got those links up on my stuff, and get it out there for everybody. Let them know.
Okay.
I also got a new retreat in the Upper Adirondack Mountains in New York for veterans. We're hoping to have it open in May. But people can go and do primitive camping right now until we get the buildings and the pavilions and everything done. But it's a getaway, and there's beautiful, beautiful land there. So we're looking forward to the future of this year and bringing some relaxation and joy, but also some validity to ending the homeless problem.
And so when we talk about homeless, that really can be boiled down to, and it don't fit everyone, but it will fit a good majority of people who's been evicted. That's what a lot of people, how they became homeless. Home minus less, be through evictions. Did everyone here get to hear Miss Versailles and what she does? Because I can have her give you a little spill if you're, well, I know you didn't. Because people are late. Miss Versailles, will you go over a little bit and tell them, or a lot of it if you want, your choice, what you do and how they can get involved in what your purpose and goal is?
Sure. Again, I'm here in New York, but we are seeking women all across the country. And the only criteria is that you have experienced some form of either pre-eviction or post-eviction, or maybe you decided to move on your own volition because of difficulties with your landlord. Any sort of tenant landlord issues, we would like to hear about them. And I have a study currently called the Fighting Displacement Study. You can go to fightingdisplacement.com to learn more about the study. You can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at Fighting Displacement. And I, again, am a psychologist and a professor at Fordham here, and you can learn more about my work, which really focuses on women and housing experiences at Versailles Lab. But all you have to do is literally on fightingdisplacement.com or any of those platforms, you can just send us a message to sign up if you want to participate. Please forward, send if it doesn't apply to you, you can forward to anyone. And we will respond quickly and be sure to, if you're interested, make sure that we schedule a time to talk.
Ms. Franklin.
Yes.
Would you like to give a brief update on an eviction that we've been working on here for a minute, to Ms. Versailles, of how an eviction started and what's taking place? Just a little bit of background.
Okay. Well, you have a client who's elderly, who had extra money taken out of her bank account for rent. And when she caught the error, actually, she caught it in a horrific way by being denied to use her debit card at a transaction checking out at a store. And I believe that is what got the ball started. She wrote and sent certified letters and bank statements showing the error of her property management, and they responded with an eviction notice, and she has been a tenant there for close to 17 years. So that was pretty horrific and stressful. They never addressed the issue until Rolla Renters got involved, and we just believe that she's not the first person this has happened to. And so, you've been representing her and going through the ledgers and going through the lease, and we just found several errors. And hopefully that case will be wrapping up soon in a favorable manner. And hopefully that eviction would be canceled, and she can have some peace, because it's very stressful not knowing what's going to happen with your housing situation. So that is what's going on with that case.
Ms. Versailles, your thoughts? And thank you, Angela. That was a wonderful explanation, by the way.
Yes, I think that is a travesty, and it's interesting that this particular client was an older woman, because I think also, older people sometimes are preyed upon in different ways, and so I think that's also part of the conversation, thinking about how landlords in a position of power either retaliate or try to take advantage of people. I mean, it's just a shame that she was a tenant for 17 years and this was the response.
Yes.
Absolutely. We got the council member to get involved, which in turn sent it to the mayor, which in turn sent it to the police department. So I've had a very elongated conversation with many different entities about her case. And so during this time, and just recently, the toilet upstairs uh, of her apartment started leaking. And needless to say, the maintenance just came out and pretty much tried to dry it off and, cover it up. And, well, they didn't even cover it up. They pretty much tried to dry off her ceiling, I guess, without, taking the stuff out in between the ceilings, because obviously everything is saturated now. And within a few days, it started leaking again, which she said has been a problem, on and off for 8 to 10 years, is what she said. So, to get into the idea and the line of your study, a lot of times, when the property becomes uninhabitable or a tenant complains, which leads into your retaliatory eviction, that's where it really comes in at. And by the time the city inspectors and everybody comes in, nobody knows except for the tenants that were living there that the toilets have been leaking for some time. So now with all that liquid, because we don't know what liquid was actually, in that area, it's now, let me say this, now the bathroom light now flickers on and off. It makes a sizzling sound when it comes on and off. Because I believe, the wires back in there go across where all that liquid was, which in turn would lead to how so many fires start in these apartment buildings and everybody act like it was accidental or it was something on the tenant. No, there's been water leaking near electrical systems for quite some time, and they finally caught fire. And so the owners normally, if they have insurance, they're going to get a check and they're just going to go and rebuild. Versus a tenant got to go back and stand in line. They've lost everything. So now they're at the Salvation Armies. They're on everybody's websites and Facebook feeds of how they're feeding them and giving them blankets and giving them shelter. And really, because that's not where they needed you. They needed you when the plumbing and the electrical systems were going bad. And if people do not sit down and take the time, and people don't, to read people's documents or to listen to what they're saying or to go to bat for them. And yes, you have to give up your time. This isn't a selfie moments. Like you are literally, this is a selfless act to fight for someone else when it's not even you. And so because we do not have that type of relationship nor drive for many, many people that I clearly see, that's another problem when these tenants are going through the mess. It's not like they're not telling people. It's not like they're not calling. It's not like they ain't told everybody and their mama what they're going through. It's who took the time to actually want to help them get out of it. When I first told people that the people took the money out of her account electronically, the response I heard was, well, she shouldn't have never set them up on her account. That came from many, many people. And of course, me, I'm pretty snappy. I got a response right for you. So you're going to blame the person who's being responsible to make sure their bills are paid every month. That's who you're going to blame. You're not going to blame the property owner or even talk about the excess money, but the blame is on the person for being responsible. So then I had to explain, which I didn't think I should have had to, how she's elderly, how she doesn't have a vehicle, how there's no one there to make sure she's getting money orders or cashing checks, and she shouldn't have to because she had it set up. And she was a perfect paying tenant, by the way, up until this fiasco. Perfect paying tenant. So let me take it one further and I'll let y'all come in. Let's say this payment was being reported to the credit bureaus. A lot of times when you go take out many, many loans, they don't report your good payment history, but they will report the first time you default on a payment. And that's why I'm grateful for Perch Credit, because now they're going back for 2 years and giving people credit for your bills and things that you've paid to where it can be recorded onto the credit bureaus to give people some type of credit for being a good paying tenant. So I just linked the two to the understanding of poverty, because a lot of times tenants do not get credit for paying all these things on time, but the one moment that they don't, they're in court. And there's nobody sitting there going through paperwork or coming in and taking pictures or telling them, hey, contact the building inspector. And this is one more thing, and I'm going to shut up and turn it over. The illusion of understanding is what I will call this one. That every tenant knows what to do in these situations. Everybody just thinks that everybody knows this magical book or this magical course of resolution. Not everybody thinks to call the building inspectors and have them come in. Not everybody thinks or even knows who their alder person is or who their representative is in council. They will call legal aid. And so many of them, and all of them are here, until you get an eviction letter, call us back. Well, that's the problem. Because they're telling you that they're going to get evicted, or if they're calling about an eviction, they're fearful of it happening. So you want them to just wait until it happens. So once again, the problem, what they're complaining about, is completely ignored. Any thoughts?
Well,
I'll say something. It's not. I'm sorry.
no, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
One thing, what you said is that it's not fair. I mean, it's just not fair. I mean, the legal aid would do that. Wait till they get evicted, and then they'll step in. That's ridiculous. And if the tenant is responsible enough to know something like that's going to happen, they should be listened to.
And so did I describe it right? Hopefully everybody thought that was a fair statement. They won't help you until you're facing the eviction.
Yes, and they're trying to be responsible.
Right. May I interject with this paying your rent online? A lot of elderly and disabled people either aren't comfortable with paying through portals or not set up to do it, or don't know how to set themselves up to do it, or a lot of mistakes are made because it's only one option you can choose, where it's to pay it free through the portal, otherwise it's $25. And a lot of people aren't aware that just clicking the wrong box is adding $25 to their monthly rent if they don't choose the free option of doing an arch withdrawal from their account for rent. But who is going to be who's going to catch the elderly and disabled people who aren't comfortable with using the portal? Are they completely not going to be taking cashier checks and money orders anymore?
Well, they take them, but it goes back to the tenant. Do they have the accessibility to take and go get a money order if they don't have a vehicle, for example? That becomes a burden upon them. That is now more of a stress upon them, because if it was originally set up to where it could just be easily taken out, that option should always be there. What should be demanded is that their money is left alone.
Yes.
So as we went through the ledger, you and I, so the argument is the leasing agent wants to say her rent is actually more than what she was paying, and that was the excess money taken out. So here's my argument. There were multiple dates in April of 2020 where she re-signed her lease agreement. That's number one. So it's very easy because there was multiple dates, and this wasn't handled just in one time. The different amounts, because of the different dates, has caused this dilemma. The second
Yes.
problem is we didn't receive that information until after the police department got involved. Did we even get a copy of the ledger to show the payment history? So that was the second problem. It had been requested. Resolution had been requested, but nothing had ever happened. Third point, when she finally took them off her account by instruction by my nonprofit, Rolla Renters Association, yes, take them off the account. So in September, they weren't able to retrieve the money directly out of her account. And so she ended up paying $181. The months after that, she subsequently paid $186. The property owners, after having the police department and everybody get involved, made the statement that her rent is $194, which would meet the two amounts of July and August that were taken from her account. The bottom line to it all is, when you see how messy the lease agreements are with all this scratching out and, to put it on the elderly lady, and her date that she had with the 186 was dated for April 30th. The amount that they had for the 194 was dated April 21st. So the April 30th and that amount will supersede whatever amount was on the 21st. Could it have been an easy clerical error? Very possible. However, after so long of a length of time of being ignored, then anyone would consider it theft. Hey, you stole my money. Once through a mistake, no one would respond. So now that when people looked at the amount, they didn't want to call it theft, or they thought theft was a strong word. No, if you put in the time that she's been asking for an understanding under the guise of a mistake, well, we're beyond that, guys, if it was just a mistake. So if you're not responding, then the only thing we can think of, it is stealing, because you're not giving it back either. You're not sending letters. You're not making phone calls. You're not being clear of why this extra amount was taken out. So through the ledger that they finally provided, you can go back in many, many years and see the woman paid her rent on time faithfully, and it was never no discrepancy about amounts. So obviously, there's one thing that's happened. There's a change in management. And so that's another little point of interest about evictions, is asking the tenants, did they go through a change of management? Because a lot of times you will hear that is a very common thing, that none of this started happening until we got this new property owner. If the property owner is shoddy in their work, everything else is going to be shoddy along with it. And all those tenants are going to suffer, whether it's maintenance requests, getting leases removed, it doesn't matter. Shoddy means shoddy. So with that being said, because the property owners did not respond to her until now that so many entities have been involved, that has put a stress on this woman tremendously. She's been to the hospital twice. She can barely think. She's been embarrassed. I don't know how many times when her debit card didn't go through. It's just so many things on top of the stress of trying to get a resolution and being ignored is something else that we all have to go through. And so a lot of times, just real quick, and I'm going to open it back up. When they talk about black on black violence, for example, nobody thinks to even think it could have been something they were mad about the property or the landlord, and there's no white people around. And just because of what they were going through with the landlord, maybe somebody looked at them wrong. Maybe they bumped into each other. Who knows? But violence is no more than anger acted out physically. And I know many people who are angry about how they're being treated by their landlords. So I just throw that out there, that through anger of dealing with something in your house could easily spill out into the streets. And so it's been coined black on black. Could have just been anger that finally just got released. Floor is open.
Environmental stressors.
I'm sorry, say again.
Environmental stressors, or what they're calling it now.
Oh, is that the proper term? Thank you, because I'm a little behind. Yeah. Yeah. And so if you dwindle it down to just two black people fighting over nothing, and so if you coin it to where black on black crime, oh, it's probably a drug thing, or it's probably, how about they couldn't take a shower or a bath? How about the kids had to go to school stinking? How about the kids, teenagers? Because this really happened out in right out unincorporated Ferguson. The water froze. They couldn't take a bath or a shower. These were 16, 17-year-old boys. And needless to say, they were mad and embarrassed. They had to go to friends' houses to bathe. That's humiliating. You know how people are. You know people gonna talk. So those are the things, the mental anguish atop of already going through the crisis of not being able to have heat or not being able to have water or breathing in all the mold and the ick that's going to be circulating in the air because that stuff was not cleaned out properly. This is why a lot of us have medical issues as far as breathing and asthma, because they don't clean out the ceilings when they have those type of leaks. And when you turn on the heating and the cooling system, you're breathing that in constantly.
I just wanted to say something, if it's okay to interject at this point.
Please.
Well, I concur with everything you said. It is, I mean, I think it's just such an unfortunate situation. And like you said, there are a lot of psychological effects that haven't been studied about the effects of what happens when you leave a place, you are forced to leave a place. And, the few handful of studies that have looked at this show that, there's an increase in sexual risky behaviors, which is understandable. Maybe people are trying to get financial resources or whatever in different ways, and it comes out in sexual behaviors. Food insecurity, food, I believe, and housing are closely tied together, and unfortunately for a lot of people, the rent eats first. So you have to pay your rent if you want to have a roof over your head, but that means that something else might suffer, and all too often it's food or some other basic necessity. So these are some of the things that we are really trying to capture. And so two points to that. I'm doing a pilot study now, looking at indoor air quality and outdoor air quality to capture this very thing about mold. I feel like it's, this is another thing that doesn't get a lot of ink until it's like, maybe a big newspaper picks it up. But the idea that people are living with leaking mold and all kinds of things, pests in their apartment, is an issue. I recently just saw the series that Soledad O'Brien did on BET about environmental racism that addressed some of these issues, that it's not just the outdoor pollutants, but it's the things that we're living with. And some of these things we don't have control over, like this woman with the toilet leaking. She doesn't have any control over that, but yet she has to deal with the consequences. So I think it's important to study these things from a research perspective, to at least say, hey, this is not okay. But I also would like to hear from other people about what they found to be successful. One of the challenges of this work is sometimes I feel a little ill prepared or I don't know, helpless in a way, because while I think it's valuable to collect stories, sometimes, you want to sort of do more, or what are some of the exemplars? What has been successful in helping people to fight back, to avoid eviction? And so I'm just sort of curious what people think about that.
Well, from the property management landlord perspective, I would like to just say that the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP, is in all 50 states, and also the Safari program. You just put your initials of your state in front of the Safari, and it will pull up the CARES Act under housing. Landlords can apply on behalf of their tenants for any rent that is in the rear, and a lot of them are doing it and still charging their clients. So the tenants really need to keep good record keeping of their rent, or if they had outside sources to assist them, so they can show this month I had assistance from the CARES Act or from a Safari or from ARC, and or from my local church or from my family members. Keep good documentation of your rental payments. I'm so glad that Raina has brought on a platform, Perch, where it can give credit to tenants the past 2 years and going forward on their rental history, because when they're going to look for a new place to live, their credit score is going to be evaluated and their rent history. And so, that's just being able to have a good rental history is what we want everyone to have. And also, everyone deserves decent housing.
Miss Franklin, do you find that, is it Miss Franklin, right?
Yes.
Do you find that some of the landlords choose not to accept the rental assistance because it sometimes comes with other types of things, like they agree not to evict the tenant for a certain period of time? Or do you think landlords are pretty, there in Missouri, that they seem to be reacting positive toward it?
For your metropolitan cities, I would say that most landlords are knowledgeable of state and federal programs. When it comes to private owners in your suburbs, the applicant really has to sell themselves, their rental history, to the landlord. There is discrimination against state and federal programs and people. And so that's a whole nother topic there. They really have to sell this product to the landlord in order to get them to see that it's stabilized money. I'm able to afford my portion. This is what my portion would be. Show a good rental history. But a lot of private landlords feel like they don't want the state or federal government telling them how to take care of their property. What it is that they do a vigorous inspection, and it must be brought up to code, and it must be livable. And a lot of people, not all, just, a certain amount, just don't want the government telling them how to run their property.
I just want to put in there, because I represent so many tenants, and a lot of these places that did pay their rent, they did not check to see if these houses were standard. So a lot of rental assistants did pay slumlords for their properties. I have contacted them personally. I have asked if they are requesting any refunds, any money, etc., back from properties that fail standard. And many of them admit they do not check property or occupancy permits. They merely pay the rent once the tenant applies for funding. And I have those letters, and I can produce the rent payment assistance, and then I can produce the building inspector reports to show that they did not have an occupancy permit at the time that payment was rendered. So that's another problem. How much tax dollars is literally being spent on behalf of slumlords? So yes, they're staying and keeping people in rental properties, but in reality, they're paying for properties that don't even have the proper permits. And no one is going back and asking them to produce it either. They're just spending the money. So that's another easy way of asking tenants if they went and got utility assistance, but their property fails a standard. Mr. Mattingly, look like you want to say something there.
Oh no, it's unbelievable. This issues that people in nowadays 2021 still have to go through hurdles just to be treated like a human being.
In Florida,
Have housing, food, clothing. I mean, the necessities, healthcare. It's a shame.
do you have any properties down there that don't look so hot, but you see tenants still living in them anyways?
Yes,
So those would be the properties I'm talking about. Those
yeah.
properties that you could clearly tell got some issues to them. And the people will go to those agencies for help, and those agencies will pay the people to stay in those properties. So it's not like people don't know it or see it. It happens all over. It's people aren't willing
Yep.
to do anything about it. And like it goes back to what Ms. Versailles said. If no one is enforcing the landlords to fix anything, why would they have to? They get money assistance with them being condemned. That's what we teach them. We teach them we don't have to. And the utility assistance, just real quick, and I'll turn it back to the floor. That utility assistance, a lot of times the tenants are applying for, that's on a condemned building. The utilities are high because the doors and the windows are leaking, or there's holes in the corners, or, so basically we are taught as a society to go to an agency and they will pay for the utility or pay for the bill, but no one's enforcing that the rental property be fixed to a standard, so they wouldn't have to help pay for the utility assistance if the doors actually fit, if the windows actually close. They wouldn't need that assistance. So we use tenants in such a way to keep money flowing to systems that do not operate on a level of habitability or fairness for tenants. And that can easily be looked up. Matter of fact, I think it was in Arizona. The media down there did a huge story of trying to go back to some of the rental institutions and find out where they paid money. I think they said they asked six entities. Only one turned over information. The other five didn't want to turn it over. And that's public information. I'm not understanding why they weren't forced, but neither here nor there. So what do we think when we go into communities and we see the housing looking dilapidated? Do we always think that those houses are standard on the inside, or do we think that they are dilapidated on the inside just like they look on the outside?
I'm sure the outside reflects.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine what it's like on the inside. I mean, clearly, if the outside is falling apart, you know the inside is falling apart. If they haven't fixed it, done any maintenance on the end and to keep it up so people can see it, you know they ain't going to care about what you don't see. So those are just thoughts just to keep in the back of your head. And do we blame the people who are living there, or do we blame the property owners for failing to keep the property up? Who gets the blame?
property owners.
So we will blame the property owners. Well, what do tenants normally hear? Did you not see it? You moved in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's like up here in Illinois, there's a thing called community action, and they work with the homeowners along with the tenants, but they go in and they winterize homes. They try to make sure that if they need brand new windows, they get them. And these are the things that need to be, implemented in every community. So I do know of one up here in Illinois that we do have, and it's got a winterization program, and they put all the fire extinguishers. They make sure that house is up to code.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have a community action here in St. Louis County too for home weatherization. I believe it's up to the tenant to apply for those services to come in and winterize their home.
Yeah, I believe it is up to the tenant as well, and it really, the tenant's bringing it to the attention of the organization, but it should be a few more steps put forward there and make sure that the place is actually supposed to be inhabited in the first place.
True.
True. Yes, and if you can send me some links, because what I have for as information, like Urban League, for example, and I've actually went through those community action agencies and had a house weatherized, but I was a homeowner at that time. So the information that I have collected is the landlord can step right up and get the house weatherized. Now the tenant can ask for rent assistance and utility assistance and get it paid. But the weatherization part will have to come from the owner for them to do any type of improvements to the property ultimately. So what I saw is through Urban League, for example, a homeowner had to wait 5 years to qualify for the weatherization program after purchase, versus a landlord could step up and say, hey, I got this rental property, I need you to weatherize. So that's what I saw. As a homeowner, you had to wait and be on a waiting list for 5 years to prove that you could keep the house, versus a landlord could step up and get approved immediately for tenants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because when you're
Wasn't
talking about
aware of that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said I wasn't aware of that.
Right, I just want to be clear. When you're talking about making an improvement to a property, to the property, no business is going to go in there and touch that property on a tenant's request, not the property. They would have to get the homeowner or the landlord's permission to touch the property per se. Mm-hmm. So one thing is paying utility assistance, but when you're talking about weatherizing, because they come in with this machine, the one that I went through personally, they do an efficiency test where they have the door, they put this vacuum on, and then it sucks the wind through, and then they go and they can monitor somehow with some meter or something to see where the air is leaking at. And then they go through and they weatherize the pipes up underneath and exterior things of where they see through this micro camera, whatever, infrared camera, I believe is what they use all through the house while they're doing the testing. And it shows a temperature difference, I believe. And that's how they determine where the air is leaking from. Mm-hmm. So that's what I had went through, and that was right before my house got stolen from me. So I was one of those people that went through that 2008 where they did all that foreclosure on a whole bunch of people. I was in that too. So I never even got to stay in the house after they weatherized it, but I was so excited that it happened. So somebody's got a warm house right now. Mm-hmm. So always make sure there's a distinction of what goes on between the tenants and the landlords. Yes, Miss Versailles.
I was
Well,
just going
I
to
just,
say,
mm, sorry, get some feedback there. I just think that every state, every city should have liaisons or activists to work uh, for the property management or the community or the city hall, just someone, a liaison to go in between and to handle complaints and to make sure they're resolved properly. Um, is we need to just bring more entities into housing, and we need to do so much to bring the homeless into transitional housing. Um, there's definitely money allotted for this. Where is it going and how it's being used? I don't know, but it's out there.
Yeah, I reached out to your continuum of care there in St. Louis, and I haven't heard back from them on uh, the next meeting, but I was involved in one of them, and they had a discussion there in St. Louis with the mayors and stuff like that, and that are all running for all your offices. And when we came at them with what we were wanting to do, they said that they would actually uh, adapt these policies and step back and actually let us do what we need to do to get this right. So I'm actually kind of excited about what might be happening in St. Louis, but at the same time, we need to do this in every community across the country.
Yes.
Miss Versailles.
Well, I was doing some research last night
Hold on, Miss
just
Franklin. Miss
prior to the.
Franklin. Hold on, Miss Franklin. Miss
Yes,
Versailles been trying to get in here for a hot second. I can see your face. Go ahead,
I'm
Miss
sorry.
Versailles.
oh no, it might. I don't want to derail the conversation, but it was just back when the conversation was focused on winterizing people's homes, and I was wondering if there was something similar. Say, if a tenant found that there was mold or that there was something that was contributing to, like, I don't know, respiratory stuff like asthma, like sometimes the paint. I mean, is there something like that, are they at the whim of just basically submitting a request to have the landlord to come in and repair the peeling paint and removing the mold, or there are nonprofits and programs that will help tenants with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as if there's nonprofits that'll do it, um, I'm pretty sure there's some out there. I know there's some veteran stuff that do many things like that. Uh, the community action, if you bring it to their attention, they can bring it to the landlord's attention and be an advocate on your side.
There are so in the Sunset Hills case and the Ferguson case, but the Sunset Hills actually went through. Basically, their line of defense or action was to call the health department. The health department will come out. They will do an air quality test. They will write a report, but unfortunately, that's all that they will do. They will not go to court. They will not submit the um, inspection report to a higher level of authority. It just sits in their file. And I believe if you have a child under the age of 5, you can go through maybe the Division of Family Services and report it. But other than that, if they are, is few far and in between. There's really no booklet or no information on a lot of websites to tell tenants what to do or where to go. And the book that we do have that's published by the Attorney General is pretty much like a little bit bigger than a quarter of a page in size. So it's already small. And it's only maybe 30 pages, and I assure you what's in there does not give tenants direction on what to do in those type of situations.
That's helpful. Thank you, Chris and Raina.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. I'm just a nerd who's collected a lot of information, or I have to go through it with the tenants to try to figure out a resolution of relief. So a lot of these do bring me back to actual court cases to say, hey, we had that issue and this is what we did and we got no relief, or we contacted this or we contacted that. So different cases will have different avenues of what was tried to bring resolution. And then, of course, we have the documentation and we can show nothing ever happened when we went that route. So it's pretty sad the avenues that are out there that tells us where to go, they really don't give the relief. The bottom line, when you normally call, you normally get another phone number and a website to go visit. That doesn't answer the question. Miss Franklin, you had something you wanted to say, ma'am?
Oh, I forgot. We just need new affordable housing, and it needs to be mixed affordable housing. Um, it just we really need development companies to come in across the United States and tear down a lot of buildings, buy the land, and put up new affordable housing.
That is
And then
exactly
they could attack the schools.
that is exactly what my charity's about. And we're going to do it by also doing something positive with the youth in every community, because they're the actual solution to every adult's problem. But they're also inheriting every one of them. So I want to embrace them and give them something positive to do, that instead of a gun, it can be a screw gun. You know, a screw gun saves
Yeah.
lives. And you know what the gun does that they traded me for that one? It saves lives too, because it ain't in their hand anymore. So now we're giving
Right.
unity in every community, giving an equal opportunity. So it's called hopeforhousing.org. The is our website, and housing our people everywhere is the name of the charity, and we are launching across the nation, and things are going to change, but we're going to create jobs for anybody that don't have one. You can have one, and we're going to
Mm.
get all the homeless off the street and on their feet. We're going to make sure that our children never know there was a homeless problem in 10 years. But we're going to start doing it with the 8-year-olds now. So when they're 18, the 8-year-olds then will never know this problem was going on. It's time to fix it, and we're
Yeah.
going to build every bit of it green. So the house don't burn, don't absorb water, it's stronger, termite free, mold resistant, seismic, recyclable, building it without a dumpster, building it cheaper than wood, and getting a 60% discount on insurance at a minimum versus every other home. So this is a positive thing, but it also teaches them to become union workers and work on the commercial side of this business, and they'll do nothing but escalate. But we're creating $20 an hour jobs across the country.
Mm.
That's exciting. I think that's the right model, because oftentimes, sometimes it feels like an uphill battle trying to work within the confines of existing housing that's not really designed to be affordable or to address people's needs at various income levels. I'm really excited by that project, Chris. Thank you for talking about it.
I've been working on this project since 2005 when Hurricane Katrina happened. And 2006, I built a home that's 2,500 square feet right where the eye came across for Hurricane Katrina. Framed everything in Illinois, took it down there, stood it up. That house saves $11,000 a year in insurance versus the wooden one next door to it. Now, in 2011, I built a home out of recycled cars from Hurricane Katrina. I built it in the middle of the woods with cordless screw guns using 5 people that never touched the material before in their life to prove I could do it in any jungle on the planet. We We put it on a trailer, took it over, and stood it up. And that house was built with no dumpster, 1,800 square feet, 9-foot ceilings. And the highest electric bill in that home has been $45. Highest gas bill has been $25. And that's been since 2011 in the Midwest winter, in the summers. I walked into that house. It was 103 degrees outside. I had the newscast out there. And when they went in the garage, when we opened the garage door up, it felt like a blast freezer hit us. And there's no forced air conditioning going on. We walked in, and I had a thermometer on the bucket in the garage. It said 68 degrees. I grabbed the attic stairs and pulled him down, and he followed me up there. And we walked to the back side of my attic and looked at a bucket, and it was 68 degrees in the attic. Then we went downstairs and went into the back bathroom, and it was 68 degrees there. And when we walked out the front door, his camera fogged up as he watched the thermometer in my hand run to over 100. So I got a congressional endorsement on that house, and it was wrote to President Obama. And there was nothing ever done about it, but there was an announcement today on President Obama's Twitter, and it says that he was doing this with his library, putting $500 million into it in Chicago, and working with doing basically the apprenticeship program that I introduced. And I wasn't very happy this morning. I was kind of glad to get on here and hear some great things and what you guys are bringing to the table, and I appreciate everybody that came on the radio. But this program's happening. We are a 501c3. This is about getting our people off the street and on their feet, creating unity in every community, giving an equal opportunity. So we need this. We have it, and all we got to do is share it. I've had some other great things come up. I actually have 17 states that we get 20% of people's electric bill as soon as they know about it. All they got to do is get a hold of us, go to one of the Zoom meetings that we're doing, and you got electric, gas, wireless. These are huge companies. Love them, Verizon, AT&T, Vivid Security Systems. And we're getting 20% of that coming to this program to launch across the nation. But we're in all 50 states doing that, but 17 of them are deregulated for electric and gas. And I just saved 47% of his electric bill. And now he's using green energy instead of the other. So he got a choice, and it saved him money, and it cost him nothing to do. But now 20% of his bill is being donated to our program.
Wow, fabulous. Congratulations.
Yes.
No, this is congratulations to all of us, because all of you are my partners. Every person you'll ever meet and ever see, you have something in common with. You have hope. This is humans on planet Earth housing our people everywhere. Okay? All we need to do is share a message, do something.
Here, y'all. Come on, so y'all
So, thank you.
Tricia, please mute your mic. Please mute your mic, Trish. Before you kill the grandkids, please mute the mic. We cannot, this is recorded. Please mute the mic. We want you protected.
Oh,
I'm sorry, y'all. Tricia. Oh, okay. She stepped away. Sorry, you guys. Continue.
no problem. But yeah, we encourage people to reach out to us from any community you're in the country. Reach out, because you are part of this by just telling me what's going on in your community. That way I don't have to do all the research, don't have to do all this time. We can just implement solutions. So it's time to get our people moving in the right direction. And like I said earlier, I do have a veterans ranch down in Florida. It's an equestrian farm for horses, but the family's invited with them. So it could be the veterans, they could be their family too. So we love people to just start engaging right now and putting out some good vibes. And with you being in New York, I most definitely love to touch base with you there. I am trying to get some major things going in New York State. Um, so thank you guys, and we're gonna make this happen. And I appreciate you so much, Raina, um, for your commitment to being having an equal opportunity to have dignity. You know, everyone needs to be picked up and understand how important they are. We want to engage with people. We want their dreams to go because every dream is just a reality that hasn't happened. But if we're all doing one common goal, these dreams are going to become reality, and we're going to create a masterpiece that we're all going to be able to touch, see, and be part of this miracle, and give our children a legacy to live on forever. And that's actually doing something together. We need unity. I like acronyms, so I'm gonna give you one more. You and I together is why. So let's do it. Thank you.
Mm, beautiful.
I do love his acronyms. He does come up with some pretty dandies, and they stick to you too. Like it is awesome. Miss Versailles, I hope this panel has been very helpful, but I would like to do another one. There's a lot of women in color. I represent all, anybody that's human that goes through an eviction. However, I do have a pretty snazzy, group of women of color that's definitely went through to fit your profile. Tell people a little bit about if they participate in your study, what do they do, or just a little bit of info.
Sure. If anyone wants to participate in our study, they can go to fightingdisplacement.com. It's super easy. There's a contact button right there. All you do is just pop in your name and your email, and we will send you a message and um, to to a calendar where you can sign up. The average interview time is about 40 minutes, maybe 30 to 45 minutes is what I would say. So we just want to understand more about your experience. We want to learn, and our hope is to maybe. I think this is so fortuitous, and thank you again, Raina, for the invitation because one of our hopes is maybe to gather together a symposium of tenants and people who are working in this area to connect people. What is happening. Maybe the legislation is different in Missouri than it is in California or Florida or New York, but to get people to come together and say, hey, this is what's been useful here for us and for tenants organizing on a grassroots level. What are you guys doing? To maybe share notes and also to create a network. I don't know how successful that would be, but in a perfect world, I would love to have some sort of network where tenants fighting for these same causes, in different states could have a place to connect with one another.
I love the idea, and absolutely, definitely, we wanted to put together another show to have a symposium, just what you discussed. We wanted to bring local leaders together before April 5th. April 5th is the deadline where evictions will resume. So we are trying to pull something together here in the next week uh, of leaders, local leaders that will participate and hopefully share the information to other local aldermen and other local leaders to be a part. So, real quick, one of the suggestions that we have, well, that my nonprofit is making, evictions, at some point they're going to resume. So, if they want to start with the ones that are drug related or anything of criminal activity, I'm not investigating those, and I don't know too many people that are looking into those. um, they can start there. But as far as the other evictions, hopefully our issue or our organized effort is to say, if they are complaining about a habitable property or something, they have an actual legitimate complaint, that we will have some sort of forum put in place to where they can come and present their documents, and it has to be documents. It can't just be, for me, I don't know what the other people would feel, but for me, I feel documents, videos, something of proof beyond just saying it should be displayed. Because when you get people just talking, everybody get to talking. But we need people who has the actual documentation or videos or something to where we can help prove their complaints exist and be able to move it to the next functioning level of body. And so that's one of the things with Perch Credit, for example, letting people know, hey, you can get your receipts sent to them. They'll give you credit. Having local leaders come on to say, hey, this is a solution that is not being heard right now of how to actually combat this. Because right now, as far as I know, April 5th, there's going to be a lot of couches and TVs on the sidewalks. And so I think our advantage is because we know that these evictions have already taken place and most people haven't, is really maybe sending out a survey to people and asking them, are they aware that the evictions are taking place? And of course, if they say no, then I can send you, if you don't have one, a copy of an actual eviction. Like I said, just yesterday I listened to it, so I have the petition. So I could send you a petition showing a date, a few petitions that were done in the eviction moratorium. They did transpire.
But the CARES Act has included so many millions of dollars to pay for 6 months in the rear, including utilities, or if you're parent, to pay 3 months forward, that tenants can apply for themselves. And actually, I ran across this by mistake. I was looking at some model programs in Minnesota. I'm so impressed with how they have so many solutions to housing, to buying, to renting, for just different avenues of finances that can help a renter to become a homeowner. I was so fascinated with Minnesota. Is how I ran across this safari, and I didn't know that this was part of the CARES Act. There is money put out by the governor to prevent a lot of the evictions, but if I just fell across it, how many people know about it intentionally? I called Raina at 10 last night. I said, hey, I found the gem, and GEM. Really, didn't I, Raina?
Yes,
I just was so excited about this. I was like, so many people can use this. But how many people even know that this is available to them in every state?
And that goes back to when I say this information is really hard to find. It is not put in a place or put somewhere to where people can know what they can do in a time of crisis.
Right.
So we have about 4 more minutes before we close out the show. I would like for everybody to give their last introduction before I play my exit out, and Kickin' and Company is coming on at noon. So we will start with, let's see if Miss Tricia Martin. No. Chris Collins.
Everyone, I did want to make one more little quick statement here about what we are. From Hope Housing. This hopeforhousing.org would be our website. Housing Our People Everywhere is our charity. 2011, we got a congressional endorsement on that house, wrote to President Obama. telling him that there was a way to give the jobless jobs and the homeless homes and do it all green and build something that doesn't burn one of our water. You know what I mean? So
At one time, hold on. Making sure they ain't calling on me. We got like 7 minutes.
I think she's got her microphone on. If you wanted to mic her, you probably could. But thank you guys. This is a wonderful day. You guys dropped a lot of great information on here that people really. But we do have a way to do it, and everybody can become a homeowner because all of you have hope now. So please share it with everybody you know, and let's do something great. And for money that we're spending every day, now they're giving us 20%. All you got to do is know about it. So this is $0 donations are about to change everybody's lives. So thank you guys, and you have a great day.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Mattingly.
I can't hear anything that's being said because of Tricia Martin's mic.
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
I know, and I'm so sorry. I have sent messages. I've told her to mute herself. And she knows she's got to come on and do her closing, as you heard her scream. Oh, she has left the meeting, so she knows. She finally got one of my messages. Go ahead, Sean.
So I'm very excited for all the work that's being done by this group. The podcast, bringing awareness to rent assistance, homelessness, displacements, and I'm very interested in working with Chris H.S. Versi. Is that Versi? Did I pronounce that right? H.S. Versi?
Either Versi or Versailles, either way is fine.
Okay, then. And I just find this fascinating, and that now that I have my own place to live, because I was homeless for 2 years, and now it's time for me to give back. And Chris, I will be calling you later this afternoon. I promise.
Sounds great, brother.
Miss Franklin.
Yes. I just want to reiterate that there's help available through the United States Treasurer, funded through the Department of Commission on Housing and your local Department of Economic and Development. Look for the CARES Emergency Rental Assistance for landlords and tenants. And landlords can apply through ERAP.com.
Thank you, ma'am. And Miss Versailles.
Again, please.
Oh, yes, Sean.
Can you repeat that again, please? ER.
Miss Franklin, can you repeat the ER?
Yes, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP. And for tenants, it is State Assistance for Housing Relief. Acronym is SAFHR. And I will send a link to Raina, and she can put on her website.
Miss Martin. Miss Martin. Oh my goodness, I'm about to Miss Martin. I'm gonna tell Miss Versailles.
I won't take up a lot of time. I'm so humble, and thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure to meet everybody. I definitely look forward to coming back. And the best way to find out more about our study, just go to fightingthisplace.com. And I'll also give you my information, Raina, if anybody just wants to get in touch.
Absolutely. And I would definitely be filling out one of those. So I want to thank everyone who came on to Underground Flavors today to be a part of this housing symposium of resources and information shared here today. And we hope Miss Tricia Redhawk and the grandkids are okay after the
Oh my
show as well.
God, so sorry. I am
I
so
thank
sorry.
you all so much for being on the show. Miss Angela Franklin from calling in. Chris Collins. Oh, there's the mute from Miss Tricia Martin, who needs to be telling us bye right now. Uh, Mrs. Sean Madeline